This man never imagined that, after his reincarnation, he would encounter the demon that God specifically prayed he wouldn't meet. He had only just become an adventurer when he came face to face with a demon. Rio felt that this demon was likely an S-rank monster. In the past, whenever he faced such a dangerous situation, he would just run away. However, this time, he had no choice but to confront it directly because the demon trapped him inside a barrier. At first, Rio felt uncertain, but after 20 years of training, his strength had already reached the peak of human mages. This was something the demon didn't anticipate. The demon originally planned to secretly carry out her own plan, but she had inadvertently trapped Rio, who was passing by, inside the barrier. She thought Rio was just a human, so she intended to kill him immediately. However, she didn't expect that none of her attacks would cause Rio any harm. That's when she noticed that Rio was wearing the Fairy King's robe, which had extremely high magical resistance. Although she didn't know how Rio had acquired it, she wasn't planning to stop. As a demon, she was skilled in close combat, but coincidentally, Rio had also trained under his master, the Fairy King, and his close combat abilities were just as formidable as his magic. This meant the demon still couldn't harm Rio. When Rio realized the demon wasn't as strong as he thought, he decided to go on the offensive. However, the demon's speed exceeded his expectations. She used wind magic to enhance her movement, making it impossible for Rio's spells to land on her. As a result, neither of their magic worked, and they were forced to rely on close combat to determine the winner. At this point, Rio wasn't as scared as he had been at the beginning. In his mind, the demon's strength, though impressive, was still no match for his master's. But the demon didn't know what Rio was thinking, and she became increasingly curious about his identity. Rio's weapons were all accessories of the Fairy King, and the speed at which he could generate magic was incredible. Even though she released her magic first, Rio managed to interrupt it. Realizing that magic wouldn't work against Rio, the demon decided to rely on close combat again. However, after fighting for so long, she realized that Rio had already figured out her moves. After just a few more exchanges, Rio saw the demon's opening and seized the opportunity to cast a spell. Although the demon didn't react in time, her reflexes were quick. She stomped her foot, and thick walls of ice appeared on either side of her. However, she had underestimated the power of the ice spikes, and for the first time, she was injured. Rio thought this was a good opportunity and planned to continue his attack, but since it was his first time dealing with a demon, he also underestimated her regeneration speed. Despite being injured, the demon became even more powerful. She warned Rio not to underestimate her. Suddenly, it felt as though time had stopped. The seemingly harmless water droplets around the demon caused a strong burning sensation when they touched her skin, making her cry out in pain. This was Rio's hidden move, but he didn't let up. He noticed the demon's energy seemed to have increased, meaning, like him, she hadn't shown her true abilities yet. As the battle was about to heat up again, the eclipse ended. This meant the barrier would disappear. Though the demon hadn't managed to kill Rio, she was excited because she hadn't fought this intensely in a long time. She told Rio not to be killed by other demons and then disappeared, leaving Rio standing alone in the spot. It was only then that Rio remembered his original mission. He was supposed to go see what the dungeon looked like. He decided to put the demon's matters aside for now. Today was the day he and his roommate were going to the dungeon. Despite the loud noises from the fight, no one had noticed anything, and the lecture in the dungeon proceeded as usual. But it wasn't just a lecture, it was actually practical training. According to the instructor, there wouldn't be any strong monsters on the first floor, so Rio and his roommate decided to explore. Rio's roommate, Aman, was a fellow adventurer who had started